Hi guys, today I'm bringing to you a Destruction Warlock PvP guide after multiple requests. So I myself haven't found one online which is not too old. So here we go. First of all, let's look at talents. This is the cookie cutter build you will most likely use. You want to run with Dark Regen always, Coil I would say always. Shadow Fury can be considered, but usually the play you do has already a stun, the partner you have. Soul Link, although twos you can use Dark Bargain, but Soul Link, if you eat your pet, it gives you only 20% extra HP, so you have, basically, I have 551k HP, and if you think about, you have an Ember Tap that heals you, especially heals you more if you have it glyphed, as a percentage of your health. The more health you have, the more sustain and tanky you are. Dark Bargain can be great for twos if you play double DPS. On the next row, Blood Horror sometimes could be used, but I generally like to run Unbound Will, because Blood Horror DRs with your coil, so that's an additional thing you have to track. And also Warriors can reflect Blood Horror, which is extremely annoying. On the talent rows, some people play Supremacy, maybe for twos, that you play with a Void, you play with a Succubus and then just CC one of the enemies. I find that generally Sacrifice is just like too good. You have some passive heals and then you have 15% more damage, which is insane not to get. You basically have a wings up all the time. And then of course you have double Dark Soul. That's the clear-cut talent. From the Glyph side, you want to always run Conflagrate. You hardlock this. This is just, you have a snare, huge slow, 50% for 5 seconds. This is amazing. Cookie Cutter, you would want to run Havoc Glyph, which gives your Havoc, instead of 3, you have 6 additional charges. And of course Chaos Bolt eats 3 of the 6, so you can either do 2 Chaos Bolt bursts, which is amazing if you have, let's say, backdraft up 6 times, then you can cast 2 fast Chaos Bolts. That's huge pressure, although most of the time you will do Havoc into Coil, and then maybe 1 Chaos Bolt and then some bursts like Conflagrate, Fel Flame and Shadowbird. So 1 Chaos Bolt you can always duplicate in trees, and then it's huge pressure. And Ember Tap is just overall amazing. You have an additional boost. It really synergizes well with your Soul Link and Sacrifice combo of 20% more HP, and it heals you passive, so it's really good for sustain. Destro locks are probably the hardest warlocks to kill, I would say. You have a lot of heal. You can consider some other talents, so maybe you can play with Demonic Circle for twos, Healthstone for twos if you have if you play double DPS. Sometimes I play Unending Resolve in trees, but not too often. So now your Unending Resolve is without the glyph, 3-minute cooldown and 40% damage reduction. Also, you cannot be interrupted or silenced. Well, if you pick this, you only have a 2-minute cooldown instead of 3. You have half the reduction of damage taken, but you have a 2-minute aura mastery basically. So if you face casters who you know not gonna go for you, you can probably play this instead of Ember, and then you can have an aura mastery on demand for yourself. So maybe they are both open, you have 6 backdrafts, you cast out a Havoc, Dark Soul, and just cast out 2 hard cast Chaos Bolts, then it hits twice too. So full burst you can hit 150k with 1 Chaos Bolt, duplicate 300 for 2 targets, that's 600k damage in like 6 seconds, 5 seconds, so that's an insane burst. What else do we might play? I think that's what you can play. You can play Healthstone, you can play Demonic Circle, or you just play these, and sometimes you can use Unending Resolve, but this is most of the time what I play with these glyphs. Next up, let's look at stats. So there are multiple ways people play Destro Lock. There are generally 2 builds. You have the full crit build, crit mastery build, which I use. So in this build, you of course have the 5 set, and then the off parts are crit mastery, crit haste mastery cloak, reforged into crit. So here, what you need is mastery first, followed by crit, followed by haste. It's crit mastery, and everything is actually color gemmed. Some people just raw mastery it. I like to color gem them. You go into the blue sockets, you do heat mastery. Into the red, you do intellect mastery, and into the yellows, you just do full mastery. So that's how you would gem this build. On the enchant side, I have a tailoring cloak enchant. You have the 180 intellect on the bracer, 170 mastery on the hands, of course a living steel buckle. You have intellect crit lag enchants. You have the mastery minor speed Pandaren enchant. Weapon, you play with the Jade of Spirit or the Spirit of Conquest is the same, and offhand you have the intellect. And of course on the shoulder you have intellect crit, nothing else to get. So this is how you would gem and enchant and gear your character if you are running the full crit build. But some people play not just the full crit build, but actually a variation of the full crit build. So what you can do on trees is that you might want to have more more haste. So instead of the crit mastery neck, you have a haste mastery neck. Instead of the crit mastery hit crit bracer, you have a haste mastery bracer. Instead of this belt, crit master, you have the hit haste mastery belt. And actually you don't use these boots, I have it for Affley and Demo. And on that build, some people not only you can look at top warlocks in trees, they like to run this build, that they just gam mixing haste and mixing mastery, so they just want to get more haste. So when I run the second build, so you can see my stats here, I have 13% haste instead of 4% or 14% haste. But to be honest, by my experience, I just prefer to run full crit, because if you have more crit, you will have more Chaos Bolt damage, which scales with your crit for one, and for the second one, you get more embers. Burning are generated casting by Incinerate and are consumed by Chaos Bolt to deal damage. Ember, yeah, it doesn't say here, but if you crit, you get more embers back. So you either run Mastery Haste or you do Mastery Crit. I suggest playing Mastery and Crit. Okay, let's talk about race. Of course you want to run human, because then you get 2 trinkets. So that's that. In Horde, you can probably run Orc, which is the best for Destro, with your stun reduction. And after that, Undead I don't see much reason to run, because you already have 1 trinket, plus talent trinket. So you don't need a third Forsaken Fear trinket. So basically human or Orc. So from a profession perspective, you always want to run tailoring for the cloak enchant, of course. And you can consider blacksmithing or jewel crafting for the flat out stats. So I run blacksmithing because it's really simple. You just put an extra socket into your gloves and bracers, and then you put in mastery gems. Some people do it with jewel crafting. And of course, some people run herbalism, because you got 2,700 or something, to maybe 3,000 haste for 20 seconds and a 2-minute cooldown. That could be amazing, because you can use it with your trinket and your dark soul. So that could be amazing 2-minute cooldown for affliction. But for Destro, maybe you can also use it, but I would just run mastery on Destro. But of course, many of you might already have herbalism because you play Affley mainly. You can just keep it, and but that's kind of it. For my macros, they are really simple. I just use here Arena 1, Arena 2, Arena 3. So this is targeting your Arena 1, 2, 3. Really good. Sometimes I forget and just click on the names, but really good. I have also a focus macro, which is mouse over focus on my C. I rotate it over targets, and it puts them into focus. And then I have a focus sphere, focus silence, focus havoc. I don't want to target my off target too much. And that's basically how my macros look like. Fear focus, havoc focus, silence focus, right? And you can also do a burst CD. So you have your trinket plus one of your Dark Souls, because you have 2 stacks of Dark Souls, I would place them separate so you see the Trinket CD and the Dark Souls CD, because after using Dark Souls, 20 seconds later you can use again the second charge. But most of the time, I want to keep the second charge for my Trinket is up, unless we have like a really good kill window, then I will just pop the second Dark Souls as soon as possible. So for add-ons, I have a red PvP guide which goes into detail, but let's just run through it. I like to run, which is important, big debuff above targets, right? You want to have buff overlay, which will show on your party frame. You want to run Gladiator Losa, which will talk to you what's happening, but I suggest to adjusting it, because otherwise it just says so many things you kind of lose track. Frame sort is 10 out of 10 macro. Not as useful for Destro as for, like, let's say Red Pala, where you want to know who is party 1 and who is party 2. So if you have this in Arena, instead of names, you will see party 1, party 2. Omnibar, Omni CD, these are really important. Of course, Omni CD you run to see the cooldowns of your friends and the party. And S Arena is, I think, by far the best Arena add-on. Of course, you run interrupt bar or kick bar, how's it called here? Omnibar, to track all the CDs enemies have. It's really important for Destruction Warlock, because you want to, let's see, test. So you want to see if the enemy has a kick or a spell reflect, and you might want to bait that. So if I'm facing a warrior, it's super annoying. They can kick you, they can spell reflect, they can charge, they can spend 2 stuns on you other than charge. So it's really important to keep in mind. You always want to have no kick available, and then you probably blast out your Dark Souls, unless you have an unending resolve up so they cannot kick. So from a perspective of how do you play even Warlock, first of all, let's talk about pets. So you can, if you run a Fell Hunter, and you, first of all, let's summon a Fell Hunter. You want to start the game by having a Fell Hunter. You can use the silence of your Fell Hunter, and then you eat the pet. So use the silence, eat the pet, and you see I have the spell log back again. So what you can technically do, you have a double kick, and then if you really want to min-max it, you can basically summon a new pet with Flames of Oroth, like Soroth or what, and you have a new pet and it has a new kick, and then you can eat it again with the next Grimoire. And then this is 1 minute cooldown, this is 30. So basically every 1 minute you can have double kicks, double silence, although it uses one of the embers. So I generally don't do it too much, but in rare cases I can just basically do this combo and do a double kick and surprise the healer or mage and kick them on frost and kill them. On the second note, you don't really have to play with Void Walker. Like if you play Affli or anything which is not sacrifice and they kill your pet, you are screwed. So you might summon a Void Walker to just have a pet which is not dying, and then you can benefit from the less damage on souling. In Destro, because you play sacrifice, Void Walker is total garbage, because what Void Walker gives you is a 30%... let me show you. This is what Void Walker gives you. It's a 30% HP increase for 20 seconds. So it's like a Battlemaster trinket. I guess in some rare situation against double DPS, actually, let's say you face a double rogue, this is probably better than, right, a Fell Hunter. You don't need the silence for them. And then you press it and you have 770 HP, and then you can blast the Ember Spirit, and look at this heal. So this is amazing combo, actually, if you want to survive double DPS against where your silence is kind of useless. Although, so first you want to run most of the time Fell Hunter, but secondly you want to run Imp. Why? Look at this, if you sacrifice an Imp you get Singe Magic, which is at a 10-second cooldown. It's a magic dispel. So that means if you play against, let's say, Red Pala Hunter healer, where they use a lot of magic CC, like Hammer of Justice, Blind, or traps, you can just dispel them. So you just click your healer and you just dispel. Like, this is amazing. You basically destroy their game. They have no chance winning. Okay, with pets out of the way, let's think about the gameplay. So you want to be always really careful with using your burst. So that's your most important priority, not to use your burst pointlessly. You also want to have 2, 3 burning embers. I would suggest mostly 3. So how do you get them? First of all, when arena starts, you usually want to kind of like maybe dot up some targets. You always want to use 1 conflagrate because it's on a cooldown and you can use 2. And then you just blast some. You fear a target, you fear a heal. You do these kind of things, you keep up dot. And you just try to collect some embers. Maybe you use some rain of fire. Maybe you do some fell flames, faking. You try to bait some kicks out, some spare reflex out. And then you have enough. And then when you're in a good position, what you want to do is... I always cleave 2 targets because I have Havoc Glyph. And I have 1 minute cooldown on Havoc because of this Glyph. With the Dark Souls and Trinket. So what you can do is you dot up your target. You have 1 backdraft for the big quest. And then you Havoc, focus target. Throw out the coil, full blast. And then you can do this. So what I just did is you throw out a Chaos Bolt, which is gonna get duplicated because of the Havoc. And you blast out a Conflagrate into Fell Flame, maybe double Conflagrate. And then maybe you have instant Incinerate, and then probably you can execute. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can execute after, let's say, the second spell, and you still have a charge from a Havoc, and then you kill the first target, and you kill the second target. So those are really funny moments when you Havoc duplicate a 200k crit. And that's basically how you want to burst, and every minute you want to do this. Between goes, you sustain with Ember Tap, you dot up, you build some Embers, and you can still just like cast out some Incinerates. Nobody's gonna really kick them. If they do, you just fear. And then if they just let you, sometimes you just cast out the Chaos Bolt and you send the flame after. So this is how you blast. The only problem with Destro is your mobility is horrible and you need people to be in the open for you to kill them. And also not just 1 people in the open, but you want to have 2 people in the open so you can Havoc. That's basically how you burst and how you play. So you have to be careful with burst, and you need a good position, and you have to hold on your burst. You want to have some embers because nothing's as horrible as you have a kill window. Basically, you have a shadow burn, but you don't have shards. So if you don't have embers and you are looking at the target at like 10% HP and you cannot execute them, that's horrible. You just messed up. So you always have to want to have embers, and that's how you play. You have to be patient and really conscious and mindful. You cannot just like blast blindly. You have to be in the game, track the cooldowns of kicks, of reflects, and hold. Best time is when you have cross CC going, so not even coil. So for example, if you have good cross CC, you can just blast the Havoc and cast out 2 Chaos Bolts, preferably with 6 drafts. So you cast out 2 Chaos Bolts, and that's the biggest burst. But for that, you need a mage and let's say a Holy Pala or Restage Druid who does a clone on the 3rd target. And then kill target in Deep Freeze, let's say. Second target maybe in Fear. And then you just blast out 2 Chaos Bolts. So that's how you play. Alright, so that would be it. Please, if you enjoy, like and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Take care, guys. Cheers.